It's a pretty day here today, so some people might be out there doing some work or cleaning their yards. So welcome. I'm Marcy Mowry. I'm the president of the Pennsylvania Parks and Forests Foundation. And also from staff, we have Pam. It looks like she's being punished sitting in the corner, but she's not really. So thank you for being here for a Q&A with Peter Jensen. Peter is a master trail builder, and some of you have met him in previous Q&As or have met him during your Sawyer training or the trail trainings that we offered last year. If we could just take a minute and go around the room, I'll call on you so you can introduce yourself. Don, we'll start with you. You're on my upper box there.
Yeah, I'm Don Horn. I'm the chair for the Friends of Minnesota State Forest.
Thank you. Andre?
Hi, Andre Waltman, chair of the Friends of Pine Grove Furnace, and thank you for your Sawyer class that I've taken in the past.
Great. Marianne?
Marianne Grudem with the Friends of Tyler, and I took your trail maintenance class.
Great. Thank you. Arlo?
I'm actually a member of the board of the Friends of Nockamixon State Park, involved with the trail maintenance and other aspects. And I just took the Sawyer course last October on a very windy day. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Tom?
Hey, I'm Tom. I'm Friends of Michelle.
Thank you. And Jim?
Good evening, Jim Ugar. I'm co-chair of Friends of Pinchot. I'm doing most of the trail redesign and other horizontal surface designs for the park here.
Thank you, Jim. So this is a Q&A. I don't have an agenda. This is really your opportunity to ask Peter your questions. And if you participated in one of these before, it's kind of dynamic, as you can see Peter flipping through his Rolodex of information with the best possible example as well as the answer to your question. So who would like to lead with a question that you have? Andre.
I'll be glad to, if you're willing.
Sure.
This is Jim Ugar. This past summer, the park manager and I took the training from the Pennsylvania Equestrian Council, and one of the products they used, it was an expanded 4-inch geogrid that was filled with material for a bank for horses. We're looking at a number of locations here in the park where we have very flat areas that we either get the lake rising up into them, or depending on the runoff, we could have a lot of sheet flow. And we're trying to avoid any concentrated flow points, to prevent erosion. And we were considering using that expanded grid with clear gravel in to 4 inches. It's perforated on the sides. Lay down a geotextile, put this on the stone, and then a wearing course on top. Now, one of the things that kind of bothers me when you look at the manufacturer's discussions is they don't put a geogrid on the top of this to keep the fines from getting down into your clear gravel. And I've talked to a couple of them online or on the phone. I got their numbers, and the people they have talking to you aren't technical, and they just didn't understand what I was talking about. So I guess my question to you is do you see that as a good use for allowing sheet flow? And would you recommend putting that a non-woven geogrid on the top to keep the fines from filtering down into that clear gravel?
Okay, so I have a couple questions back at you first. When you talk about clear gravel, are you talking about crushed stone?
Crushed stone, yeah.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, like
Um,
with no fines, you know.
right, right. So it's like a
Angular. So
three-quarter
yeah,
inch or
yeah.
inch and a quarter or inch and a half, whatever. And remind me, how deep was that geogrid?
The GeoGrid, it comes in different options, but we were looking at
Okay,
4 inches because we figured that would, with a 3 inch wearing course on the top, that would get us above most of the times that the water is reaching the
right,
peak.
right.
Not
Okay,
not always, not all. I mean, you know,
sure.
it's like we're not going for 100% here. Otherwise, we'd be a foot of stuff, you know.
Right, right. And do I recall you saying that the sides are perforated
Yeah, the all
so
the
water can move
water
laterally?
can move laterally back and
Okay.
forth through it.
Yep. Okay. Um, all right. So you're looking, and you said it was relatively flat ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just okay.
It just there's really no grade through these areas, and you know some
Yeah.
places we already have established flow across, and we're allowing that to happen. We're armoring that so it doesn't
Right.
erode. But
Yep.
these areas, I guess we could do that, but I don't want to increase the flow rate. The longer I can make it stand, the better.
Right.
Is my approach to this whole thing. So
Right. Right. So the water just comes up and then it goes down,
yeah,
basically. Okay.
3 or 4
Um,
times a year when we have a
yeah.
hurricane, a big melt off, whatever.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I think you'd want to use like a 4 ounce non-woven geotextile on top of the geogrid. Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, you don't want those fines from whatever the 3 inches you're putting on top to migrate down into that crushed stone, because that's just going to defeat the whole purpose. So
Okay.
the only recommendation I would make is that on the uh, um, what should I say, the uphill side of it, that you put in some larger stone there, so that you don't get fines building up there and blocking water movement laterally through this. Essentially what you're creating is what I call a drainage lens, which we typically make them with non-woven geotextile, just fully wrapped in, say, 6 inches of crushed stone. So it's protected on all sides from, fine particles getting into the crushed stone.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That is some of the stuff we've been doing too. We were thinking that with these larger flow areas, you know, some of those we were putting in are
Yeah.
15, 20 feet, maybe sometimes the biggest one's 30, but I'm talking 70 to 100 feet of dead flat stuff
Oh
where
yeah. Okay.
we need to, and you're right. The water can flow both ways, so we got to protect that flotsam and jetsam from the lake coming in and the
Yeah.
stuff from
Yeah.
upstream, the leaf matter and
Right.
whatnot. So
Right.
we were planning on putting the 3 inch riprap R3
Okay.
on either side, and then maybe
Either side. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I want to put anything else.
No,
Maybe
I think that's a good idea. And what you could do is the non-woven geotextile you put on top, maybe just wrap it
wrap
down
that.
on either
Yeah,
side and cover the edges with that larger stone.
excellent, excellent. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Okay, thank you.
great.
I think Andre had a question. Andre, are you able to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, just Peter, general comment or warnings. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you
Nope.
blocked
Yeah.
out for a second, but
Okay. So on Sunday, a few days from now, got a dozen volunteers. There's like I don't know, 70-yard stretch of trail that was built decades ago that goes straight down a slope. What rain sheets down this thing. It's also on a fractured hillside where springs come. Effort in there to maybe put in some water bars on Sunday. It's administratively not going to happen in my lifetime. So my general question, Peter, is any words of wisdom or warnings about, old style water bars? Um,
Okay. Um, Old style water bars. Well, let's see. I don't think I've put one of those in about 20 years. But I guess what you want to look for are places where there's a slight turn in the trail. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Just nod your head because you were garbled.
yes,
Okay. All right.
my internet sucks, but I can hear you.
Okay. All right. You could always go to just audio. That might improve things for you.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay. So, so back to your question about water bars, and my first comment is picking the best locations, and that would be where, if you have a fall line trail and the trail maybe meanders a little bit, pick the places where there's a slight turn in the trail, and then you can, shoot the water off to the outside of that curve. Water tends to want to run straight, and so if the trail turns, say, to the left as you're looking downhill, shoot the water off to the right. You also want to be conscious of that water not coming back onto the trail. So that's another caveat that you want to be conscious of. Um, without really seeing the site, it's kind of hard, but I would say those are the two main sort of guidelines I can give you. Um, And are you planning on using wood or are you planning on using stone for the water bars?
I'm going to use stone. I spent a couple hours today getting stone ready, so my volunteers are maximized. Um, I mean, in general, I've seen so many comments that water bars have fallen out of favor. You just
Right.
said that you haven't done one in 20 years. Um, why is that? And I recognize, again, this trail should not have been routed the way it was done, but I have to live with it. So.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean that's the if there's a way that you can relocate that trail, but it sounds like you're not in a position to do that. Um, so another technique that because work we've been doing in the White Mountains on the old bridle path, I don't know if you're familiar with that trail or not that goes up to Greenleaf Hut, but what we're doing is we're actually installing steps where the grade is more than say 15%. And so what we're building up steps, we might do a rise run calculation. And let's just say, for example, it looks like we need 3 steps. We'll actually install 4 steps. And that fourth step allows for a grade reversal or creation of a grade reversal above it. So you're really not building a water bar. You are essentially creating a reversal or, also a diversion for water. That obviously requires a lot more work. The thing about, depending on the grade of your section of trail, a rock water bar typically, you know, back when I used to do those, you know, the other objective was not to be able to see it from the downhill side. In other words, it was completely buried. Okay. Um, I see plenty of old stone water bars that kind of look like buried stegosauruses. There's a spine of rock sticking up out of the treadway, and that's not an ideal scenario for a rock water bar. So again, picking your locations well where you can actually do that to get the water off, B, bury the rock water bar, so that as you're walking up the trail, you don't really see it until you get right to it. So that's probably the best I can give you at the moment for your particular scenario.
Thank you. That was actually helpful without you having seen unique circumstance. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Hey,
Thank you.
Peter, Tom Reed here. I took your saw class a long time ago too.
Yeah.
I got a number of trails that are really washed out. And you say you don't do water bars. What do you do about washed out trails that and I'm not going to be able to relocate them, but what do you recommend? And I don't have a lot of time to put steps in.
Okay. Yeah. That's, what level of entrenchment are you talking about? Like how deep are the gullies?
Um, some it's like it's almost hard to put if I was going to put a water bar in, it'd be hard to do because they're, almost like
Yeah.
a foot. But I noticed like one of the trails I just hiked the other day, you can just see where the water just runs down because it's taken all the leaves and stuff. We had a good rain,
Yeah.
and you just see it just coming right down the trail. So
Yeah. I mean, the best you can do is, try to break up that flow. Um, just like I mentioned for Andres, find those spots where there might be a slight turn in the trail, or ideally a bigger turn in the trail. But you may end up having to build a pretty long water bar, that so you can get up and out of that trench that you're in. And it's probably going to require some steps down below that to really help to buttress that diversion, that water bar. Um, that's about the best I can recommend that you can do. Um, you know, I recall years ago also, living with the water, but it also requires a lot of stonework. But basically, right. Well, let me first ask you, how wide is this gully?
not too wide. I mean, it's a pretty narrow
Like,
trail going up a steep
oh,
hill.
oh, okay, all right. Because if it's wide enough, you could actually put stone cribbing or retaining right up the center and then backfill on one side to create your treadway and then accommodate the water on the other
The other side.
half of the trail. So that's another
Yeah, we've done
technique that
that in
has
some
been
places.
used.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, to me, it seems the ideal thing for you is a relocation, in the long term for, to create the best sustainable uh, situation.
Okay, thanks.
Because the more water bars you guys build, the more maintenance you're going to have.
I understand that totally.
Marianne, I think you had a question.
Yeah, so we run into issues, I think, similar to what James was talking about, where we have a lot of relatively flat areas, which of course are most popular because they're close to the creek. And so they're often very, very muddy. And we're trying to improve it with a crushed gravel, crushed stone turnpike. And it's going to be like 400-foot long in one section. And I think some of the comments were like, there's no place to put in a culvert, but that was one of the recommendations, without having seen it. But is that like too crazy of a length for something like this? It does seems like that would help to make it more a better passageway.
Well, I guess the first question I have is, I mean, are you actually, would this be classified as a wetland? That'd be one question, and
Well,
so,
it's been a mud trail for a long time.
yeah. And is this an equestrian trail?
No, this is
No.
a
Okay.
connector from, they're trying to have a connector go from a playground area to another section of the park so people don't go around and use the road. And
Gotcha.
they tend to not use it because it's frequently muddy.
Right, right.
But
Yeah,
we do have
okay.
this issue with our equestrian trails too, but I think we can do them in sections. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea of a turnpike, or elevating, I mean, even a boardwalk might be an option too. I mean, if it's in a park, you got a playground right there. People are the users, the visitors are gonna recognize, a boardwalk as a place to walk, you know. Probably more so than a turnpike. But as long as it's high and dry,
Right.
turnpike would be the uh, the most sustainable approach. Boardwalk, you're going to build it, and it's going to require some maintenance over time.
Yeah.
But you also asked about culverts.
Well, that was what somebody recommended, but I think they were
Uh-huh.
thinking that the water was running through, but it just tends to be wet.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean,
It
culverts
gets
are,
churned up a lot, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, culverts are, they have their place, but they also increase your maintenance. They also become habitat for, skunks and raccoons to, hang out in, when there's no water flowing, or snakes for that matter.
Yeah.
Um, so if there's no need for cross-draining water, the turnpike approach to me seems like that's going to be your best bet.
Okay.
And I mean, 400 feet is a long distance. It's
Yeah.
going to take a lot of material to do it.
Yeah.
But if there's a playground right there, it sounds to me like there's also potential for some equipment access.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Next question. We do have one person that keeps trying to get in, and I've let him in about 5 times, but he must be having connectivity issues.
Hmm.
Other questions? Arlo, Corey, John?
Peter, can I offer a suggestion for Tom to run by you on his hill? I'm not sure
Sure.
how effective this is going to be. We did this last year on one of the steep trails that was about a foot deep and about 2 foot wide, eroded, multiple locations, pretty much straight up. What we did was, I would call it a hybrid lens and diversion bar, so to speak. We opened up the lowest side and used that material to build a berm. We armored that, but we flattened it out so that the water would want to tend to run off and not concentrate the flow like you typically would get with a water bar. It's
Mhm.
like a 4 foot semi-flat area that starts sheeting that water off into a flat area. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back up there to see how these four of these that we put in survived the winter. But last fall, when I was up there, they seem to be not requiring any maintenance at that point in time, and you could see where the water was moving off into the woods, but it hadn't started eroding yet. Now, whether that's going to end up being the case or not, we'll see. But I want to keep an eye on it. But I think the key thing was that it goes to a gentle slope because we use that dirt to fill in below. Eventually, we
Yep.
want to try to fill the whole thing in, but it was like triaging, a triage attempt to keep things from getting worse.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's it's a great suggestion. And I love the fact that you folks are sort of experimenting with sort of outside the box techniques. But yeah, I think that's if you have that ability to take out the lower side, which is where the water would want to drain to, and then utilize that material in the treadway to build it up, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you end up creating sort of a wider area of disturbance, but you're also minimizing the impact of water flow. So, yeah,
I'll give it a try.
yeah. Send Tom some photos.
If it works. Oh yeah,
So I
send me some
will,
photos. Oh, you good.
yes, so I'll make one comment. So I've only been with Malcolm Mixon for close to a year now for the Friends group. I've been walking all over the trails for years, but just interesting to hear some of the comments about this because we do have one section of trail, just a very short part that actually we stopped maintaining because it's been washed out too many times on various areas. So it's just interesting because some of the members are like, we need to get DCNR to put more, go ahead and backfill all that. And the thing about it is that's really not going to solve the problem, right? It's like you need to realize why is it washing out, and solve that. Putting fill in there is just gonna happen again, right? So
Right.
it's just interesting hearing some of the things with you or with the trails. I mean, my biggest thing from walking the trails, we have a lot of areas that are very, very muddy. And unfortunately, especially the parts with the equestrian trails, because that's where, of course, the horses don't help with that. But just interesting. I'm going to definitely have to take a different look at some of our trails and in the way they're constructed, and see if there's some things we can do to help at least with the mud part, but also not even consider doing anything. We have enough trails on our own. We don't need to deal with this one loop that has major washout issues, right? Like, so just got to prioritize it. But it's a really good discussion, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is for everybody. And just the suggestion is, think about doing an assessment of the trail systems, within your parks. And you might consider making some decisions there on recommending closure of certain trails or pieces of trails. Um, well, some of that are perhaps like the one you just described, that it's just a fool's errand to keep, filling it in or whatever, and that's kind of a waste of your, valuable volunteer effort. And maybe it doesn't make sense to keep that particular trail,
Yeah.
you know? And so I've done this for a number of organizations, done trail assessments on trail systems and come up with recommendations for, sort of low, medium, and high priorities to deal with things, as well as, well, what do you think about getting rid of this particular trail? And also recommending, and I think we talked about this at the workshops last year, looking at relocation options to trails that have some problems, but that are also important trails within or sections within the trail network.
I got something.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm down here at Michaud, and they're putting in tons of trails. I mean, which is kind of good on one hand. But I'm thinking it's like, instead of it's high, medium, low priority, is like how many people use them, and then maintain the ones that are used the most, because I think what they're doing
Yeah.
is they're getting a lot of feedback from bikers and hikers and everybody else. And they're putting in, I don't know, Don, what do you think? 100 miles of new trail? And they're just using basically bike trails and stuff, and they're just marking them and blazing them. So
What they did was took about 120 miles worth of spaghetti and are cutting it down to around 60 miles. Some of it was already existing, some of it's incorporating some of that spaghetti. And they kind of went through and asked all the users, so to speak, which ones were the most popular trails and to use. Now they had to defer from some of them because they were getting too close to sensitive areas. So they did reroute some of it. I agree. To me, they're putting too much in too fast. And because we're still behind on getting a project done from before that. They're just really pushing it. They're going to get it in there, but I don't think the stuff's going to be up to the grade in which it should be when other people start getting in and start using it a lot.
yeah, I guess that's my fear, is they're putting so many trails in, we can't keep them maintained, and they're going to start
Right.
washing out.
Hey, Don, I'm gonna jump in if, yeah.
You're breaking up,
Yeah,
Andre.
right. This is the context. There were a huge number of illegal, mostly were put in, and that's what Don's talking about. It's a hell of a problem because many of those trails were not cleverly laid out, and the state forest is just accepting
Yeah, that sounds like
because they're so heavily used.
right. That sounds like a mistake on their part. I don't know what kind of influence you can have with the state park folks and really encouraging, I mean, it sounds to me like they're going through an assessment process, um, but they're not sort of relying on sustainability science in filtering out, the trails that really shouldn't be there. Um, because a lot of times user-defined trails are just not necessarily, uh, sustainable.
So Peter, a lot of the questions seem to be revolving around water. Is there a resource that you would recommend for people? Since they can't have you in their back pocket all the time.
Um, Well, I mean, if doing some research on, like, for example, go to American Trails, they have a library of publications to check out that. And I don't recall if they have things segregated by, like water issues or, grade issues or things like that. But, there are some. I mean, you have your state publication. There are others out there too. I know Minnesota has one. Um, Colorado has one. But also look towards, maybe some of the state BMPs for forestry, for example. That might be a way to get at some of the state park folks is to say, hey, this kind of violates, what your BMPs for logging operations are, um, you know, as a way to try to influence them in the correct direction.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question for the people here. We are, when we're talking to Peter about doing training in the fall, some of that would be chainsaw again, but some of it will be a variety of topics relating to trail maintenance. It sounds like perhaps one of the days should be just focused on water and water issues. I'm seeing nods. Are there any other topics that you would like to see addressed in a multi-day training?
I mean, I don't know if there's a solution for this, but I'll say that one of the biggest things that we spent a lot of time on, of course, is with maintenance and I started on the trails in July of last year as working on trail maintenance, but it's invasives. I mean, the amount of time we spend weed whacking stilt grass and then sickle barring, um, multiflora and all the other wonderful things that happen to are very abundant now, especially under where all the dead ash trees are. I mean, that's a big. We spent a lot of time on that. We really
Yeah.
spent a lot of time on that. I don't know if there's actually a solution, but I just know that that is a big item. We spent a lot of time on that, So.
Why, Norla? Peter, do you have a solution?
Short of something like napalm.
Exactly.
Yeah, short of napalm.
If you came up with a solution for that, Peter, it's like, okay, you're done. You don't have to work again.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming these are hiking trails, but they could also be, well, they could be any trail really. Um, but I don't know. I mean, it's you you yank things like multiflora rose out, by the roots, and you disturb the soil, and then there's just, you know,
Somebody else will take its
umpteen
place.
thousands of dormant seed that sprouts, in the soil.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, maybe what it takes is you know, uh, in your trail system, identify the sections that have all these invasives, and really put an effort into clearing out really wide, so that in subsequent years it's going to be easier to maintain that as opposed to dealing with, larger, bushier growths of things like multiflora rose.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest concern is, and I've been talking to some people, is that also the wonderful, all the different vines that are invasive
Yeah.
going up onto the trees. And, you know, they're already struggling, especially, you know, I mean, you guys know the biggest things that we've probably been clearing for the last several years have been ash trees. But with all these vines and things like that that are going up and they're, you know, really hurting the other trees, oak trees, maple, whatever else that is not hit by that, you know, so that's another big one. But when you have so many, you know, miles of trails, it's just really difficult to tackle that with, you know, you know, you're going to keep the trails open, or you're going to concentrate on small portions so you can take care of invasives and vines, right? So that's
Right.
always that's the tough part with this.
Yep. Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say on a section of the Appalachian Trail that my husband and I maintain, we worked with and applied, somebody who was certified to apply pesticides, herbicides, and volunteers went out and they cut back some of the invasives, and then they did spot application
Yeah.
Right.
on every
Yeah,
stem. And like within a year, we saw all the bluebells come back, you know, but it was very labor intensive and it was very slow process because of the spot application. But you know, if you have to use herbicides, it was the least invasive way, no pun
Right.
intended, to use the
Right.
herbicide.
Yeah, maybe we do is we pick a trail for a couple miles or whatever we want to do, and just concentrate on those areas. But yeah, the thing about painting, I mean, the good news behind it is you're putting that herbicide directly onto the plant as opposed to spraying it, so it's really good. But a lot of that also is going to take. I think you need to do multiple years for that to work, and if you don't, if you miss a year, then you're starting all over again. But you know that is successful, but in a much you know, just really labor intensive in a small area. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Tom. So I work with the National Park Service in Gettysburg, and what we've been doing is the volunteers will go out and cut it down to the ground, and then when it starts to come back up, then the National Park Service will come by with a herbicide and do a foliar spray when it's nice and small, so they're not spraying this whole one. But you have to work closely with them so they know when to come out and spray. The other option is, again, if you can work with them, you guys, the volunteers, come out and cut everything down, and then somebody who's certified to do the herbicide does the stump treatment. And usually if you hit it the same day, it will kill back the most invasives if you're doing the stump treatment. But you
Yeah.
got to hit every stump. And so it can be tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will say that, Marianne, I'll give you a second there. Jim put a resource in the chat box, and Pam also put a webinar on water from the American trails into the chat box, so you can grab those. Marianne.
Yeah. So I had another question along with this, and so much seems to focus on stone and you know, moving the dirt and things like that. But are there like recommended plantings for some of these footpaths? You know, I really thought about it when Arlo was talking about, you know, Nakamixon, because some areas the trails are nice and grassy, and others where, you know, they're just getting worn more, or, you know, doesn't have enough growth. Are there things that could be recommended where we get a little better footing in some of those areas that would take hold?
So first off, type of trail use, pedestrian.
Well, that's pedestrian and equestrian.
Okay. Well, see, there's
Yeah,
part of the
it could be
rub there. I
reduced.
mean, with the equestrian, the hooves are going to churn things up, right? Unless you've got a good bony, surface with fines mixed in, so that grasses have an opportunity to thrive. Um, I mean, I think you can do it. Again, it may require, some significant work and some patience to get it to, to the point where you want it to be. But in terms of, I don't know too much about, grasses. I know that there are various kinds that are, for example, athletic fields. The grasses that they use on athletic fields have a stronger I don't know, constitution, than something you might plant on your lawn, just
Yeah.
because of the constant use and wear and that kind of thing. I mean, if you go to a nursery, a well-established nursery, I'm sure they could give you some guidance on the type of grass that would work better for that. Um, and I mean, if you're in open areas or if you have partially wooded areas, then you got to get into the shade tolerance aspects of the various grasses, um, that type of thing. So,
Yeah, I was just wondering if there, I mean, I assume we'd have to be looking for native grasses and things
yeah,
that would have a deeper
yeah,
root structure. Might take
right.
a while to really take hold, but if you kept out certain sections of it, it could help. But
Right.
I don't really know grasses well.
Right, right. Well, you might also consider clovers too, then,
Oh,
because they have quite deep, root structures. I mean, you've got the white clover, which, of course, honeybees love white clover. But then there's also the mammoth red clover, which I know has got deep roots. I mean, I've got both, at my place here in Vermont. So, um, you know but a mix, that's really what you want to do is also, is have a mixture of different
right.
plant species. Diversity is really a strength.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Okay.
Mary Ann, this is Jim Ugar. I know our park here, Gifford Pinchot Park staff is really reluctant to allow us to introduce any non-natives,
Yeah.
particularly non-natives to the park even, So just a word of caution there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a suggestion there is look around. What is already growing in the park,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So,
Well,
And then
it's
also
hard
the,
because so much is invasive. You
yeah,
probably do see, or it's planted because of, picnic areas and such. But, you see a lot of stilt grass, which is we don't want. But, clovers are good though because they are there.
yeah,
you also got the difference between non-native and invasive, right? They can be
yeah,
non-native and not harm the environment or whatever's happened versus invasive, which is going to take away from other native species. So you also have that balance, which
right.
you know they've been, people are getting rid of clover because they don't like people with the bee stings, but it's like it's only bumblebees and it's not that bad versus what other stuff they could potentially have in their lawn.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and if you want, I just posted, I just hiked a trail and DCNR had tore it up because they put a logging trail in right over the trail, but they're going to use that logging trail as our new trail, but they just seeded it in the fall with a cool weather short grass. And they're hoping that the grass won't grow tall, so we won't have to weed whack it in the future. So I can ask what seed they used.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I
If
mean,
you
that's
find out,
that's
Tom, we can send it out to people. Go
yeah.
ahead.
I'm just going to say that, again, back to the forestry side of the equation, there are those requirements. One of their BMPs is to seed in, disturbance, when you're putting a logging job to bed. So that would be the first place I would look is what are they using for seeding in logging roads?
Other questions? Is there anything new in the trail world, Peter?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking that I should announce that we are running it's the World Trail Network and my firm and another firm up in Maine. We're doing a workshop in Franconia Notch in June. It's an intensive 4-day trail design workshop, and it's for professional development. But the project is a place called Artist Bluff, and on a fall weekend, there could be as many as 3,000 people on these ledges that overlook or look down south into Franconia Notch. Historically, painters would go up there and paint. And there's lots and lots of imagery of these paintings out there. Um, but we're looking at a redesign of or sorry, renovation of the existing trail. That would be one group that's going to work on that. Another group's going to look at a sustainable alignment. Um, and a third group, which I will be leading, is going to be looking at an all-persons trail alignment to get up to these ledges. And so, that's something that we're working on pulling together. And it actually came out on American Trails' website here a couple days ago. And we've also got
find that.
support. Sorry, what?
I was gonna say, we can find that and send it to people.
Yeah, right. And we also have support, tuition support from the Professional Trail Builders Association as well. So, I mean, it's a 4 day session, so the tuition is like $1,200 or $1,275, I think it is, for that 4 day session. So it's really geared, towards pretty serious trail folks that are going to take this information back and use it to you know analyze existing trails or put in new trails, that type of thing. So you could spread the word, Marcy, within DCNR.
Yeah, I will do that. I will look it up. We do belong to American Trails. And I
Yep.
will say, if you can subscribe to American Trails, and then they'll send you their regular workshops, and you can
Right.
attend for free. If you want to get into their archive at any point in time, then you need a subscription.
Right.
But it is a good resource, and they're constantly putting out new information and doing webinars.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
actually have a free webinar weekly, every Thursday. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say,
Yep.
reason why, Tom, I'm working on your access right now. I tried to test it and there was a issue with it. So I got a hold of Candace out there today, and hopefully you'll be able to access it tomorrow. I'll send you all your access information.
Nice.
Ooh, got somebody.
Somebody's at my, hold on there. You guys talk among yourselves for a second.
Did you all have much snow? And I'm just curious what the winter runoff and impact on trails in Pennsylvania might be this year.
Well, we just got back out to the trails last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join. I was actually surprised. They said some of the trails weren't bad from a standpoint. I thought, and you living in Vermont, I remember hearing a joke about how Vermont goes from snow, then their next season is the mud season, and then it's spring. But the big thing was, they had good footing, because the big thing is we haven't been out there since November. So of course, our big thing now is clearing the trees that have fallen down. But from what I hear, it was pretty good. So that's where so far. But we really haven't got out there very much, until last week, because we had snow up until like a week ago, because we had a crust that hung around for a long time. So we'll see how things go, but we're trying to focus right now on just getting the trees cleaned up and getting to different parts as we can. So
Yep. Okay, great.
So one of the things that I noticed the last I was out was late December and early January, but I was very impressed with how effective our mattresses, like you mentioned, the geotextile woven. When you'd walk on a lot of the other trail, you had this frost heave, you had
Oh yeah.
raised ice, and when you hit those, it was solid. So I didn't think of that as a benefit of them, but
Uh-huh.
that was really showed me how effective these things can be. So
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you all know, but the trails in Vermont are closed during mud season. There's actually a ban on hiking because there's so much damage that can occur during muds, when the frost is coming out of the ground, there could be water sort of either standing in puddles, but also on slopes, pretty muddy, and that's where, just foot traffic can pull that soil downhill and just contribute to, you know, probably on a seasonal basis, probably about an inch of erosion.
Yeah, we had,
So,
that was a big thing that we had, is that was so cold so long. We probably had one of the deepest frosts that we had in my area of Pennsylvania in years. And then when you do get that, finally do get some melting, it's not going anywhere because the ground is still frozen, even though it's 45 degrees. It's just,
right,
hey, we've been hanging around 20 and much lower than that for weeks, so
right,
it definitely
right.
impacted things.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
yeah. No. Our frost and I live off of a dirt road in Vermont, and the frost is down at least 5 feet in the roads.
wow.
So it takes a while for that to come out.
So I just wanted to bring something, I mean, Peter, trained us. He had the course and got all the good PPE and all that, and did everything to help us and explain to us all the safety and everything on a chainsaw and all that. But I just wanted to express to the team something that just I took today and just want to throw it out there is, um, St. Luke's Hospital in the region I live in actually offers stop the bleed courses. And I actually took one today. It's an hour-long course. It's free. They do it all through our region, St. Luke's, more for the bigger hospitals and less often but it's just something that um, I would highly recommend, not just as a Sawyer, but also as a personal thing that you could potentially help somebody in someday. So just something I just wanted to throw out there that I think it's I mean, it's an hour, it's free, and it could help save somebody or yourself. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. And like I said, St. Luke's in our region throughout multiple counties offers this for free, at least on a monthly basis. So something to look into. Just wanted to bring that to people's attention. Hopefully, I'll never need to use it, but not a lot of commitment to do it today, and I learned a lot. So I just wanted to let everyone know about that. So.
Yeah, that's great. And to follow up on another safety aspect, especially for those of you who had not taken any chainsaw trainings, but I'm now pushing this more and more with other folks. Last week I did a 5-day saw training for a trail contractor. Um, 3 days with felling and 2 days for just bucking and limbing folks. But you know, when you're working on the trail, another thing to do is look around. Are there any dead standing snags? I mean, you've mentioned, the dead ash that you're dealing with and that kind of thing. But, if you're focused in an area where you're putting in, a turnpike or whatever, just check out, make sure that there's, no standing dead snags that are about to fall over, you know, and knowledge is power. You just go up to them and just gently push on them in the direction of their lean. And if they fall over, well, now you know that that's could have fallen on you. So it's another thing to do as a trail maintainer when you're out there working, especially with a group of volunteers. You don't want anybody getting hurt because some tree fell over on somebody.
Yeah, I guess that was the biggest takeaway from one of the biggest takeaways I had from your training, Peter, was the fact that we're working in this area that the trees are down. That's why we're working there. So there's a good chance there's other trees around us, which may be snags and all the other stuff in the area, right? Like that was like, think about
Yeah,
that. Why are you here? And it was so funny because we a day after Thanksgiving we took a walk in Lake Nakamixon, and we get out there and I was told about this wonderful trail, and we get out there and the wind starts blowing and start blowing, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm told about this trail because we went on it because we were taking care of trees. I don't think we want to be here right now. It's like,
right.
get out of
Yeah,
the area. So,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's a real good point. Let's try to prevent stuff from happening. So,
right.
Peter,
Number one objective, get home
Peter,
safely.
you probably appreciate this, where I was doing some saw work up in Long Island, and we had that snow and the crusty snow on the crust on top. So
Uh-huh.
every time we had to make our escape path, we would just have to, so you could really easily see the escape path because we had to break through the snow to get to it. So
Right.
you ask the trainer, "Where's your escape path?" And he'd be like, "Right there."
Yep. Yeah.
We're coming to the end. Are there any final questions or any thoughts on other topics you'd like to see in the training that we're doing in the fall? I'm seeing heads shaking no. Don, I can't see you. You keep fading in and out. I'm not sure what's going on with your camera.
I don't have the light on, that's why.
Okay.
Just, I know I'd like to get some more Sawyers trained. That's all I think of for right now.
Okay.
There's some other thing, well, with the water, uh, issues you were talking about earlier, that would also be, a great help.
Okay, great. Peter, I have a question for you. Do they now have certified chaps for using battery powered chainsaws? Because this was an issue that,
Yeah.
the volunteers are not allowed to use them in Pennsylvania because they
Uh-huh.
lack a certified chap.
Right. Right. No, I don't believe there is one. And I think you and I have talked about this before, but for example, Appalachian Trail Conservancy will allow volunteers to use battery saws, but they have to use the competition chaps, which are 9-ply, as opposed to the
Okay.
standard ones that are 6-ply. So you might want to consider, seeing if the state would accept that. But
Yeah.
on the other end of the spectrum is that the industry is looking at installing clutches in the battery saws so that when they encounter that kind of resistance, the material jamming up in the drive sprocket, that the saw would stop, as opposed to keep chewing because of the torque.
Right.
So,
Well, that would
so
be
there's
helpful.
Yeah, but I suspect we're probably still a few years out from seeing those types of things come to market.
Okay. But we'll just keep checking back.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, you're
Always
welcome.
enjoy hearing your wisdom, and it's helpful to hear the questions that everybody has. So, and I want to thank all you here tonight, not just for being here, but for your volunteerism and your continued curiosity of how you can work with the trails and make them better and more sustainable. So thank you
Right.
for that.
And I look forward to seeing folks in the fall.
Great. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.